All right, guys, we are back at BTS Performance today. We've got a nice Mach 1 here on the dyno. You can get a picture of that. There we go. This is actually first Mach 1 in the world with a VMP Odin supercharger. Maybe one of the first Mach 1 superchargers in the world. We've turned this one up a little bit, making about 900 wheel horsepower. So, but getting ready to get started on this, to do some final adjustments and stuff. But I wanted to take a minute because we've gotten a lot of excitement about the Omega X2 that we're about to release for the F-150s. So I wanted to take some time to kind of explain some of the features of the new tune. Omega X. This is kind of a reinvention of everything that we've ever done tuning wise. It's first thing to make very clear, this is not a more aggressive tune. I've seen that comment thrown around here and there when we've mentioned the tune, and it's not a more aggressive tune. I think saying more aggressive gives the intonation that this is a tune that's going to be hard on the vehicle or has more risk of damage or something like that, and that's just not the case. What this is an optimization, further optimization. All of this started with some very deep diving on my part in terms of the third generation Coyote control system, the 10R80 transmission as well. Hundreds of hours at this point on my personal Mustang GT, and we've arrived at a point where we've got this. We found some really interesting parts of the stock calibration that left a lot to be desired, and we've definitely improved upon them and optimized them. It's the impression, and what we typically always do with our tunes is I don't ever want our tune to feel like that the vehicle is doing something that it wasn't designed to do. The very common feedback or compliment that we get a lot of times, even from the original Omega tune, and I'm sure we'll get even more with the Omega X tune, is this is how the truck should have come from Ford. And that for me is like the biggest compliment. If we can improve the performance, improve the driving enjoyment and the overall drivability and enjoyment of the vehicle, and it feels like that this is exactly like an OEM calibration, well, that's the goal. That's what we want to do. And the only way we get to do that is by understanding the control systems, understanding the logic in the control systems, and using that logic in a manner that's appropriate and that achieves the goals that we're trying to achieve. And so that's what we've done. The question might come up, well, why didn't we have this before? Well, things are constantly in a state of development and in evolution. The original Omega tune that was launched back in 2017-18 somewhere has had several improvements throughout the way based on customer feedback, based on further data, based on new tables being available in the software. So we're constantly evolving the tune and improving it, and we do that with all of our tunes. The big difference here and why we've decided to change the name and to do this new relaunch and everything else is that this is not just an improvement of the tune. This is a complete evolution of the tune. There are some things that probably will take some adjustment. If you're coming from the stock tune, definitely. If you're even coming from one of our previous Omega tunes, mostly in terms of the transmission calibration and the shift scheduling that we've done with that. I've developed this shift scheduling and the transmission logic of just hours and hours and hours of driving my own 10-speed vehicles and putting them in situations where we're trying to, to I guess put it at its worst. This transmission having 10 speeds, the biggest complaint is everybody feels like it always feels confused, or it doesn't know what gear it should be in, or it's, lots of upshifts and downshifts, etc. And those are all very valid points and things that I myself have also noticed when driving any 10-speed vehicle, especially on any sort of a stock calibration. So those are all things that we've attempted to optimize and to improve. One of the things that will take some getting used to is that we have to throw out the notion or the idea of shift points based off of specific vehicle speeds. And through testing and feedback from our beta testers, that's one of the things that came up regularly. So I feel like it's important to mention in this video. A lot of the traditional or standard transmission calibration logic uses this set point of to some degree that a certain vehicle speed that the vehicle should be in a certain gear. Well, that's not always effective, especially when we're talking about F-150s, when we oftentimes put larger tires in stock or even smaller tires in stock. We change gear ratios. If we put intake manifolds, we swap out intake manifolds that change the power curve, move it further up in the higher RPM range. Those are all things that impact really where the appropriate point to change gears or the shift scheduling should take place. So rather than subscribe to that old logic, I focused more on just paying attention to the engine itself, the characteristics of the engine. Coyote engine is not a torque monster. They're made to turn RPMs. Everyone knows this. They're happy turning 7,000 to 8,000 RPMs. No issues. Of course, if the modifications warrant that sort of RPM. But what we've done is I shouldn't say but then what we've done is I focus this shift schedule on trying to work cohesively with the engine's characteristics and its power band. This transmission is the 10 speeds have 3 overdrive gears, 8th, 9th, and 10th, with 10th being even a greater overdrive than what 6th gear is on the 6R80 transmissions. So there's plenty of range there. We have tons of range to work with, and traditional stock calibration, even some of the Omega stuff previously, kind of did that hurry up and get to the next highest gear thing. Obviously in Omega we definitely held the gears longer, but in this tune we're probably taking that a step further, with quicker or earlier closed throttle downshifts, holding the upshifts a little bit later. And the whole basis of this is to kind of keep the engine in its power band, so that a couple of things happen. One, the engine's more responsive. Also, the engine is more efficient. When the engine is in its operating range and efficient, or where it's making power, that means that you have good flow or good airflow through the engine. So you're going to have good swirl in the combustion chambers. You're going to have a more homogeneous mixture of the air and fuel, and it just becomes more efficient. So contrary to popular belief, getting up to super high gear or lugging the RPMs down low doesn't always save fuel. The efficiency of the engine has a range. So if we're operating in that range where we're making torque, then obviously the engine is efficient. You can't make torque without airflow and without efficiency. So we've kind of banked on that, or kind of leaned on that. And you'll see in the Omega X tune that gear changes are held off longer. We have a good ratio spread between, say, 3rd gear through 6th gear, even up to 7th gear. So we've used those gears kind of as the drivability gears. That's what the gears that you're going to be running around in when you're around town. And we've kind of set the shift schedule up to be very intelligent and intuitive. So it's like the transmission always knows what gear you want to be in. There's no guesswork. Eighth, ninth, and 10th gears are cruising gears. They're our highway gears. So, you know, when you're up to cruising speed, 8th gear, 9th gear, 10th gear, but what you won't see is it's not going to rush to get to 10th gear. You might reach a highway speed, depending upon the tire and gear ratio on the truck, that it is not necessary to go into 10th gear, because going into 10th gear would now put the engine outside of its efficiency range, outside of its power band, and it doesn't make any torque there. So inevitably what would happen if we did hurry up and get to 10th gear is now we would be lugging this engine down low, and any sort of acceleration that we need to make, you know, just say, you know, lightly overtaking a vehicle, we're going to be forced to, you know, kick down 1 or 2 gears perhaps, and just so that we can make the torque that we need to be able to pass that vehicle. Well, that's completely counterintuitive to fuel efficiency, because the engine transition to drop down those 2 gears, there's a transient fuel that takes place as soon as you tip into the throttle, and then as the RPMs are coming up to change down the gears, you know, any sort of fuel gains you might have from running that lower RPM are instantly negated as soon as you have to drop down 2 gears just to overtake someone. So that's one thing that you're going to notice. Don't freak out. Don't panic. It's intentional. That's the way it's supposed to be. And I would encourage anyone throwing out the Omega X tune to just kind of forget about, you know, the way the transmission shift schedules and stuff worked previously, because we're reinventing the game right now. We're creating a new wheel, if you will. So it is different. It's going to be different, but it works. We've tested it a lot, and we've gotten some really good feedback from those that have tried it. So just go with me on this one. So that's one of the key things you're going to notice. We've done some cool stuff with the torque converter and the way that works as well. There's some cool stuff in terms of like the downshifts and when the vehicle's coming down to a stop. You'll notice that it drops down to 2nd gear. It's going to stay in 2nd gear, and it'll eventually drop to 1st when you come to complete stop. Again, this is a way for us to use this gigantic spread of ratios that this 10-speed offers us in a way that greatly improves the driving experience and enjoyment, and also uses the power band of the engine more efficiently. So that's some of the key things there. Now, the big question I was going to say, is it faster? Is it faster? Well, in testing, yeah, we have seen the tune is actually, you know, decently faster. It's not because we made it more aggressive or we're throwing a bunch of timing at it or anything like that, but other things that we've done in the tune to further optimize have done things like improved 60 foots. We've now optimized shift points based off of power delivery of the engine. So those are going to be changed a little bit, and we're using that not only just saying, oh yeah, just shift at 7,000 RPMs all the time. Well, no, that's not always efficient. You know, what we're looking at is the gear ratio spread, the RPM drop into the next gear, and we're determining the optimized shift points based upon, you know, several different factors. So doing so has definitely improved performance. We've seen testers that have, you know, gained 1/10, 2/10. We've even seen one of our testers gain 4/10 from his previous Omega tune to his Omega X tune. So yeah, there are some performance benefits. But I think what everyone is going to notice, and you know, let's be honest here, you're not going wide open throttle every single second, every single time you're driving your truck. What I think everybody's really going to notice is the improved drivability, and that's really what we're focusing on this. You're going to feel a lot more part throttle torque, a lot more low end torque, a lot more mid-range, very smooth linear throttle response. The engine is just going to feel like it's a much larger engine, like it gained displacement. And, you know, this has all come from time that I've spent with my personal car. And as you guys probably know, if you've seen any of the Alpha Spec videos, I race my car at track days and, you know, HPD events. I race it on circuit racing, road track racing. And so that type of racing, it is paramount for us to have a linear and progressive throttle response. We don't want any surprises mid-corner as we're rolling into the throttle and all of a sudden, boom, there's this, you know, a bunch of torque that wasn't there, you know, 300 RPMs ago. So, you know, we've focused on this, and the things that I've learned in the process of trying to develop a tune that works really great at the race course, but also drives really great on the street. And coincidentally, those two things actually complement each other. You know, a car that drives really great on a road course also happens to drive really great on the road itself. It kind of makes sense, right? Road course, road. So, so we've taken on some of that stuff. Those lessons that we learned, we've taken that and we've applied that here to the F-150s. And we're going to continue to explore this logic and, probably apply it to some of the other platforms that we're working with. When time permits, I'll definitely try to see if we can port some of this logic over into the 11 through 17 trucks as well, because I know everybody's asking about that. And we're not ignoring anybody, but the fact of the matter is that I typically do all of the R&D work, and I'm just one guy, and so time is not always a luxury that I have. So we work on things as quickly as we can while still taking care of all of our customers. So but anyways, that's a whole nother story. So that's a little bit about Omega X. We're really excited to get it released to you guys. We can't wait to hear all the feedback. We're going to put it live on the site, and we're definitely excited. So when you guys do test it out, if you're a new Oz Tuning customer, or if you're coming from a stock tune, if you're an existing Oz Tuning Omega customer and you're upgrading to Omega X, if you have a tune from somebody else and you're going to Omega X, we'd absolutely love to hear your feedback. So feel free to post on this video, feel free to post it on any of the various Facebook groups that we're in, feel free to send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. So that about wraps it up, guys. So we'll get this tune out to you guys here real soon, and we hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned, guys.